Hey guys, this is Lala Legacy and welcome back to another episode of SeaBed. So, let's just jump right back in. As I opened my eyes, still facing down, a pair of shapely legs entered my sight. As I raised my face, I nearly collided with the black and white drink from before. I took the cup from Sachiko's hands. It looked like coffee with some cream on top. Yup, that's the one I saw! It's called Irish coffee, apparently. Sachiko didn't have anything besides the cup she handed me. You're not drinking anything? I'm not really thirsty. Then I guess I'll help myself to this. I brought the glass cup to my mouth and tilted it. The first thing I felt was the cream, which was nowhere near as sweet as I had anticipated. If anything, it had a fairly mellow taste. Then came the coffee, spreading all across my tongue. As I finally took a big gulp, something suddenly burned my throat. A small amount spilled out of the side of my mouth, but I thankfully managed to regain enough composure not to spit it out like a fountain. That was whiskey! Yes, it seems like they mix it with the coffee for this drink. Chuckling, Sachiko pulled out a plastic bottle with water from her handbag and handed it to me. I heard the horn of the ship resound again. Drinking my water straight from the bottle, I turned around and saw the ship. The ferry wasn't rocking too intensely on the water. I leaned over the railings and saw the ship's propellers making white foam waves below us. Each time the ship rode a high wave and sank back down, there'd be a big splash. The crisp, somewhat moist sea breeze gently cooled my cheeks. You didn't need to drink it all. I forgot all about the ship for a while there, but I'm okay. The wind feels really nice here. Sachiko was looking at the sky. I shifted my position on the railings, putting the back of my head against them, and followed suit in gazing up into the sky. There was a flock of seagulls flying above us. I followed them with my gaze, noticing that the port town we just left had already been enveloped by fog. All I could make out were the gray silhouettes of tall buildings looming on the slope. I turned toward the front of the ship and spotted the island we were going to. Dude, that looks like Alcatraz. It was visible from the port as well, but after getting closer, I also made out a lighthouse, as well as a rectangular white building that looked like it could have been a school. Large trees covered the eastern side of the island, hiding from view whatever else was there. The western side consisted of a large cliff of white rock. It's more beautiful than I thought. Sachiko was looking in the same direction. If I didn't know any better, I would have guessed it was anything but a prison. It is Alcatraz! The island used to be a prison for isolating highly dangerous criminals. And apparently, Native Americans who didn't do much of anything. The place gained fame as an impossible to escape institution, making its way to countless movies and novels. Oh yeah, that's definitely Alcatraz. One of the tourists tried his strength against the iron bars. The first building we visited consisted mostly of one long room with a tall ceiling and 3 rows of solitary cells on both sides. All the cells were small rectangles with white iron bars serving as doors. Plain concrete stairs with iron railings led to the upper floors. The room was so massive, I felt like this road with cells would never end. I peeked into one of the cells and saw a bed, a water basin, and a toilet. I also spotted a picture frame and a magazine lying on the floor. Okay, so I have a pretty funny story about Alcatraz actually with my family. So my father, he had told me that one of our family members, whom I never met, never knew, none of that, that he had gone to Alcatraz. And he told me the story when I was little. And I just remember it being pretty funny because I didn't know why he went, what he was doing there. All I knew is that he went to Alcatraz and he was released, and he died a couple years after he got out of Alcatraz. But when I grew older, when I went to college. I went home for the holidays, and I brought it up again because I didn't bring it up again. My dad brought it up again. And so I decided to look for records online, and I did find public records of names and why people were in Alcatraz and like what cell they were in and all that kind of fun stuff. And so my dad told me the guy's name. I looked it up and I busted out laughing. And I said, well, it looks like he was in there for assault of a post officer. And so my dad and I busted out laughing, and he was like, well, that sounds about right. Because apparently back then, they would arrest Native Americans for the smallest of things. And my dad and I were saying, yeah, if it was a white guy who had assaulted the post officer, he wouldn't have gone to effing Alcatraz for it. So yeah, that's the story that I have with Alcatraz in my family. Anyways, turning around, I looked at the other end of the passage. The countless parallel bars stretching on in my field of view overwhelmed me with feelings of seclusion and order. The path split into two once it reached the wall at the end, leading left and right. I could see light seeping in through the open doors. The rectangular patch of light on the floor looked like another door. As I was staring at the light, a dark-haired woman passed by me. Sachiko, looking into the cells on the other side, reached the end of the tunnel, took a turn, then vanished from sight. Wait! I hurried after her. I ran up the concrete stairs. Once I reached the landing, I changed direction. By the way, did you know that the Japanese word for stair landings references dancing because it's kind of what you look like when you turn? When I was younger, I really thought it was a place where people danced. But isn't the same word used for stair landings where you don't need to turn? You have a point. Why did you suddenly bring that up anyway? I don't know, it just popped into my mind. We've only been seeing foreigners and Western stuff as of late, so I guess I feel a little nostalgic for Japan. Stair landings came to us from the West, though. Really? Speaking of which, this reminds me of the time we played tag at our apartment complex. You jumped out the window at the second floor, landing and twisted your ankle. My ankle hasn't been the same since. Every time I turn my foot, it still creaks a bit. But man, you sure remember all that ancient history. Well, it was shocking enough to leave a lasting impression. I had thought you were dumb for running into a dead end on those stairs, but I underestimated your stupidity. What kind of idiot would jump out of a second-floor window during a game of tag? Ugh. I was so pumped I didn't even think about the consequences. I mean, this is just the kind of stuff kids do, you know? Not me, that's for sure. As we finished climbing the stairs, Sachiko peeked into the cell to her left. I think this is the one. She urged me on with a glance. Yeah. There was a dummy shaped like a man laying on the bed, no doubt to trick the guards. Further into the cell, we spotted an air vent and a poster partially hiding a hole in the wall. Wow. An inescapable prison, they once called the place. Yet there were indeed a few who managed to dig their way out with nothing but a handful of spoons. That hole is smaller than I thought. I patted Sachiko on the shoulder. She chuckled as she saw me imitating a guard, inspecting the dummy with a flashlight. We continued down the main street of the building, walking shoulder to shoulder. Looking into the cell next to me, I spotted a blue canvas and some painting tools in one, a mountain of magazines and Bible pages scattered on the floor in another. It felt like each cell reflected the personality of its former owner. Some of the inhabitants seemed to have tried to utilize the small space they had by changing the positions of their beds or attaching shelves to the walls. The sight of what was most likely handcrafted furniture stood as a visible memento of the many years these people must have spent here. It doesn't look too bad, Sachiko abruptly spoke up. I considered her face. You get food every day, you're allowed to exercise to stay in shape, and you could spend all your time reading books. I feel lightheaded at the very thought of being locked up in such a cramped place. It doesn't matter where you are. The important part is what you do. You'd grow bored of reading if that was the only thing to do every day. Doesn't that also apply to the outside world? At least on the outside you're not alone. That makes it better. I guess so. Sachiko gave the handle leading to the showers a careful look. I lined up next to her and gave her a careful look instead. Then I imitated taking a shower while Sachiko quoted a line from a movie. We'd been together long enough to not need words to communicate. I felt happy about that. You can see the sea from here. Sachiko, walking in front, turned her head to me and pointed ahead. The viewing deck from which we could see the sea looked like it could belong to a ship. Standing on it were a couple of giggling young girls enjoying their shopping. There was also a young man. He sat in focused silence, painting a picture. Then there was a biker admiring the sea from the seat of his motorcycle. A tanned man with dreadlocks dancing to reggae music. A woman sitting on the edge of the pier writing poetry. An old couple simply gazing out at the sea. There were all sorts of people, each of them freely enjoying the sight of the sun gradually sinking down or below the horizon. Alcatraz was such a cool place, though. Like, the ruins of it is awesome. Noticing that it was growing dark, I stood up from my chair and flipped on the light switch. Sanae filled our empty cups with freshly made tea. You didn't run into any ghosts and such? I took a sip from the steaming hot tea as Sanae asked that question. I don't believe in stuff like that. Honestly, if any place had them, it would be there. I mean, we're talking about the ruins of an old prison. You think so? Yes. Oh, now that I think about it, weren't there some famous ruins on this island too? Really? Sanae's expression clouded over as I directed my gaze beyond the window. I like ruins. It's pretty cool to know there used to be something magnificent right where you're standing. You feel like you've glimpsed something from the lives of people you've never met. Even if someone died there and you're seeing their ghost? Is there even a place on Earth that hasn't seen death? I mean, I'm sure someone has died, even in this very spot over the course of 1,000,000 years. I bet they even waged a war or two around here. I think it'd be much harder to find a place with no potential spirits wandering about. I see your point, but don't ruins make you feel somewhat uncomfortable? Like you've said, they make you imagine all those things that were lost. I think it depends on your perspective. That doesn't scare me, or at least. I suppose you're right. If anything, I'm much more scared of not knowing. Isn't that just your usual curiosity at work? Maybe. I've traveled all over the world after all. Traveling sounds like fun. Have you ever wanted to travel, Sanae? Sanae stopped her nod midway and cocked her head in thought. The twigs of a broad-leaved tree shivered beyond the window. The wind continued to howl. It almost felt like the scent of the sea drifted across the room. I think I'd be too scared to go to an unknown place. I'd probably want someone like you to accompany me. Yeah, and I'd be too worried to let you go all on your own. If it's okay with you, I wouldn't mind tagging along. You're used to traveling, so I definitely feel safer with you around. I won't argue with that. I could take you all around the world. The broad smile I made caused Sanae's lips to curl up as well, albeit only slightly. But she soon returned to normal. I do not mean to intrude, but, why did you break up with that Sachiko person? Wait, Takako broke up with Sachiko? No matter how hard I thought about it, I simply couldn't remember. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it. Sanae's voice brought me back to reality. Nah, I was just thinking, it's not like I don't want to talk about it, it's just that I can't really remember. Oh, do you think it's part of your condition? Probably. Certain things are missing from my memories. When I try to think too much about them, I start losing my grasp on reality. In that state, despite being conscious, I wouldn't be able to see things right in front of me, and all sounds would feel distant, barely audible even. I know you guys probably think that it's weird that I'm crying like this, just from the fact that Takako and Sachiko are broken up during this time. But to me, it's just so hard to imagine that anybody who's dying and knows that they're dying wants to be alone. I mean, I get it because... I get it, kind of, because... I pushed people away too, when I was supposed to have not made it this far. And it's because I looked at myself like I was a ticking time bomb, and that it was my responsibility to limit the casualties when it finally blew up. And so I get that part. But I also get the other part too, from the person that has to watch the other one that they love die slowly. Because with my boyfriend who passed away 9 years ago, well, almost 9 years ago now, he knew that he was sick, he knew that he was dying, and he would try to push me away, and I wouldn't let him. Every time that he pushed me away, I pushed back even harder, wanting to stay in his life, and I was so blessed to be able to have the chance to be by his side until the very end. And I was given that gift to be able to give him all of my time for the rest of his time. So I can't imagine being alone. I can't imagine how scary it is. And, well, I can imagine because I'm pretty sure that's how I'm gonna be going. But it's scary. Not death. Death is not scary. Death is a human thing, and it happens to everybody and everything. So death itself isn't scary, but what's scary is being alone while you're dying, when you know that you're dying slowly. And not having anybody there to tell you that they love you, or to tell you that everything is going to be okay. That's the scary part. And so, I was so lucky to be able to give that to somebody else. And I would not trade that for the world. He deserved everything. He deserved a longer life. He really did. He was one of the best people I've ever known. And I was so lucky to have known him. So, reading this, that Sachiko and Takako are together while she's in the hospital, it's just so hard to imagine. Because I had given somebody else that gift, that's something that I would like for myself, but I know I'm probably not gonna have it. And that hurts a lot. Sorry. Anyways, it felt like walking through a long, dark tunnel with no lights, with only the boundless darkness in front of me. I'd start losing track of whether I was moving ahead, standing in place, or actually going backwards. That sensation would only last a few moments, though. A sound similar to that of a grandfather clock striking the hours would suddenly make me realize I had fallen awkwardly silent in the middle of a conversation. Look at the time! Mayuko's gonna be making her rounds any minute now. Seems that way. I think I'll be going then. I don't want to get her angry at me for making you stay up all night. It's about time you went to sleep, right? Ah, it is, yes. Sanae picked up the book she'd left on the bedside and returned it to the shelf. Good night. I stood up and returned the cane chair to its former position. But that is all the time that I have for this episode, guys. So if you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up down below. And if you haven't already, subscribe. By subscribing, you're becoming part of a legacy. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!